What's going on? It is Patrick back with Team Planeta, and I've got another top 32 deck profile for you from Richmond. I played Mannadium. The main deck is really similar to the deck I played last week in Bolivia as well, but it seems to me like the main problem in Mannadium is Droll and Lockbird. The deck doesn't really have bad matchups. And so I really tried to focus on beating Droll and Lockbird with this deck, which you'll see as we get into the deck profile. Bear with me, as the original video accidentally didn't save. So I'm recording it at home, and I am not a content editor. I'm using 3 deck boxes as a tripod right now. So hopefully it works out all right. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get into the deck profile. I played 2 Visa Samsaras. In the main deck, this is actually the only change I made from my deck in Bolivia. I cut it from 3 just because it can get stuck in your hand a little bit. If they interrupt when you're trying to summon Visas and then you have a Samsara in your hand, now they could both be dead. And so I wanted to avoid that, but it would have been the 41st card if I played it. So I still do like 3. I also played 2 Rykart still. So Rykart's really good. I considered going up to 3, but because it really only does one thing, I kept it at 2. And then I played 3 Roomheart as well. Roomheart is the best summon in the deck. Roomheart is full combo by itself, as well as play around other things. One of the best things about the Mannadium deck is that if you draw some of the normal summons together, then they don't function like normal summons. And Roomheart being able to dodge imperms and everything like that really shows that. Then I played 3 Meek as the only balls. I actually did consider doing Torrid, but you'll see why in a few minutes. Then I played 2 Visa Starfrost as well. No real reason to play 3, but you're not upset if you draw it either. Then I played 3 Fenrir and 1 Scareclaw to go along with it. The Fenrirs are really good going second, and the fact that they can get you to your engine when you're going first is just all around really good. I don't think there's been an event since Fenrir's come out that I didn't play 3 Fenrir in. And then for the hand traps, I played 3 Ash. These are the only monster hand traps I played. Just all around solid. And then for the spells, I played 3 Calarium. This is actually an Anti-Droll and Lockbird, which, I'll elaborate on in a minute. Then I played 2 Obsession as well. Obsession, it's really good. Helps breaking boards. Being able to summon from hand is really, really strong. And I kept the 3 Droplet that I played in Bolivia. Droplet was once again fine. I think it could be something else, though. I really wanted to play Veilers, but I ended up keeping the Droplet. Maybe I'd run it again, maybe I wouldn't. Then I cut the 3rd Samsara for a 2nd Prosperity. I was saying that I wanted to play more Prosperities last week, and I bumped it up to 2. Maybe by the next event I'll get to 3. But yeah, I don't really see a reason why you wouldn't want to play Prosperity in this deck. And it also actually helps with beating Droll and Lockbird, which you will see when we get to it. Then I played 2 Reichphobia, 1 Terraforming, 2 Arrival, 1 Reinforcements, and 1 Planet. And then for the spells, or for the traps, I played 3 Imperm. All around solid. It's not high impact or anything, but it does enough. If you can cut them off from like 1 or 2 things, then the rest of your engine should be able to be good enough to really push through the board. And then I kept the reframing for Typhoon. I actually used it on a Typhoon this event, whereas before it was just like I was really scared of them going, normal summon Ash after I've double Omega looped and made Dispatter, Baron, SP, and then normal summoning Ash outs my whole board. Because they can just go into Typhoon and bounce Dispatter, or attack over SP and then bounce Dispatter, and then you're left on Baron. And it's really hard to kill them if you can't use the effects. So you kind of have to like waste the battle phase, they get their Omega cards back, and you don't win the game. So I was really scared of that happening, so I kept reframing in. I played it over Eulogy just because it's more searchable, but I do like Eulogy because it's better to draw going second. But since it was for that narrow use case of like I didn't want them going into Typhoon after I made my board, I just went with the more searchable one. For the extra deck, I played SP Little Knight. I would actually consider bumping this to 2. It is really good, and you often want the second. I played Cross Sheep, 2 of the Light Hearts to go with the field spells. Then for the synchros, I played Baron, Death Spatter, and Chinging for the 10s. Chinging was a little bit better this tournament, and I banished some relevant things. Also, the fact that it doesn't target is pretty good. Omega, so that you can Dispatter it back and hit, 2 cards out of their hand. A lot of people are asking me, how do you actually make the 2 Omega loop? Something you actually don't want to do first in this deck is make Baron, because when you are at the end, you'll go Cross Sheep back a Meek from your graveyard, and then you have Vicious and Meek, and that's how you want to go into Baron. Whereas if you make it early in the combo, then it's like your levels are a little weird at the end, and you can't get all the way to, 2 Omegas and Dispatter with Baron. So you want to actually make that first. It'll make your levels line up a lot better. Then I played Excel. Oh, also one other thing is, I know some people are going to think that it's kind of scary to not make Baron for the fear of nib, but if you put up a bunch of monsters on the board and they have the opportunity to nib you and they're looking at a Baron face up, then they are going to nib. So when they don't, you can just pretty easily go into anything. And if you make Omega and they nib you for some reason later, you can just chain it. It's fine. I think nib's pretty bad against this deck, actually. It's never really impactful enough. And then I played Excel and Crimson, both basically just to get to Dispatter. I played the Visa Synchro, the Mannadium Synchro, 2 Vicious. I actually missed the 3rd once this tournament. That was the first time in a while that I've missed it the 3rd. But it was against a Chimera deck where he drolls me, and then turn 1 I made Baron, Dispatter, SP all under the droll, and it got into a really grindy game because then after having droll, he went Imperm on Baron, he had droplets for the rest of my board, and then he had engine cards to play with too. So we got into a really grindy game, and I wish I had the 3rd Vicious in that game, but overall, I don't know that it is going to come up more often than something like Changing. And then the last card in my extra deck is how we are actually beating Baron, or how we're actually beating Droll. So it's Mannequin Cat. You can make it with 2 Meeks, and when they droll you, let's say you do something like make your first search off planet a Meek, then you can pop it. It doesn't matter what you pop it with. Could be Visas, could be Room Heart, whatever. But most of the time you have a way to pop the Meek even if you're under Droll. So you go planet into the Meek, pop it with anything, and summon a second Meek out of your deck. Then overlay those into Mannequin Cat. And then bring back their Droll, trigger the Mannequin Cat. And when you side deck, you signed in Spell Canceller. So you can very easily make SP Knight, Spell Canceller, and Mannequin Cat when you get drolled. It doesn't have to be a perfect board, but it's definitely good enough most of the time. And the fact that you don't need to draw other cards with it to like make the mannequin cat, you can just do it from having Meek, having Planet, whatever. It's really strong, I think. You also don't even need Planet every time. There's like enough hands where if you just have access to a Meek and a way to pop it, that you can still get to it. Because what you'll do is you will set up Cross Sheep and have the Meek on board. And then you'll summon a Vicious and pop the Meek. Now here you won't actually trigger the Cross Sheep, but you'll summon the second Meek out of your deck. And then you can trigger the Cross Sheep, get back the first Meek, and then make the Mannequin Cat like that. And then still be able to go into Spell Canceller with SP Little Knight. And so you can get to Mannequin Cat with Spell Canceller virtually every time you have this, but sometimes you can get to it without even having access to Planet. So I sided in one Spell Canceller to beat Droll and then main deck to the Mannequin Cat. Along with that, I also sided 3 crossouts. I gave those back, so I don't have them here. But 3 crossout and a cold buy along with it. And so when you look at it, if you count Calarium as an out, crossout as an out, and cold buy as an out, you're up to 7 outs there. And so the math on that is like 2/3 of the time, and 2/3 of the time they wouldn't have even drawn Droll. So then when you combine the two, the total that Droll actually affects you is less than 10%. And then you factor in, you've got hands that are just inherently good under Droll, like the hand I mentioned earlier, where I can make Baron, Dispat, or SP after getting Drolled. And then you've got some amount of hands that you can get to the Spell Cancer play without having Calarium too, and just having access to Meek. So overall, Droll is affecting you like not very much of the time at all, actually. Then I sided in 2 Drolls myself. Because I was siding crossout, I had to side this pretty much every time it went first, regardless of what deck I was playing against. But that's fine. I think Droll is a lot better when you're going first. If you look at something like Pearly, Droll, they can play in draw phase, so it's not the best against them when they're going first. But when they're going second, a lot of their plan is going to be to happiness you, so having a card like Droll is a lot stronger when you're going first. And then I played 2 effect failures. I wanted something for both Pearly and Rescue Ace. I felt without the Veilers, I was kind of ignoring Pearly in my side deck. And so I wanted a card that could hit both Pearly, but also hit Rescue Ace. So I sided in 2 Veilers for that. Then I sided Cowboy. And then the last cards in my side deck were 1 Harpies, 2 Lightning Storm, and 2 Hatred. So these are all for Rescue Ace, although some of them come in other matchups as well. Being able to bounce, 4 set cards, and then push through, maybe 2 interruptions at max. I guess best case scenario, they still have 3, but even still, it's like all their interruptions are face up. It doesn't matter if it's Preventer or SP or I guess best case Baron. If these trade for the 2 traps, then I think that's a good trade-off, and I'm pretty happy with that. And I played 4 Rescue Ace, and I went 4-0 against them. What ended up knocking me out was actually just me not knowing a ruling. I just messed up, not knowing how dangers work. I didn't play during that format. But yeah, the deck was really good overall. It's a lot more resilient to Droll when you play it like this. And the deck already didn't have bad matchups. So, yeah, I think it was really good overall, and I would play something like it again. I guess that is everything for this time, but yeah, stay tuned for the next one, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thanks.